the gods. B'nai Am Yatishrim Ba'adam. Do you live amongst other nations that worship gods? Okay, do I have another page? I don't know if I do or don't. I do. Okay, good. Do you engage in a labor? Again, do not say the name of God. Do you have any business transactions that you might take oaths in vain? Honor your parents. Do you have any parents to honor? Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Is there any jealousy amongst you? Etc., etc. All right. So in other words, how do you plan to keep the Torah anyway? Miyad hodu le'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Immediately the angels conceded to Hashem, and they said, "Yep, Shemayim. Even though Yehodah is in Shemayim, now it belongs on the earth as well." And Miyad. About on the page, about on that column. Immediately, everyone in the angels became a friend of Moshe. Umasaloi, was skipping? Masaloi, let's skip page. It's Matana, and he gave each one gifts. All right, I'm sorry, they gave each one of him a gift. All right, that's basically what happened. Okay, so that's what they conceded in the end, and they give him gifts. This is the story when Moshe goes up to Shemayim. Okay. So what we got to now is really analyze the story step by step to see what is it really telling us. Okay, step number one, by the way, is this conversation between the angels, Moshe, and God. According to Maral, right, he says something, I'm not going to say it's controversial, it's not really controversial, but Maral says it doesn't mean this conversation took place. It means this is the conversation that would take place if an angel would speak out what an angel is. If you would speak out what it would be. I'll give you an example, what I mean by that. I think I've mentioned this in the past, maybe I haven't. Again, related to Shavuot, when God created the world. So the letter Aleph came to God and said, God, this is not fair. I'm Nun Uno. I'm the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. I don't get to go first. Bereshit Bar Lakim starts on the base. It's not fair. Right? So then God said, relax, chill out. You'll get your turn. Anoch Hashem Lakecha, I am Lord your Lord. The Ten Commandments begins with the letter Aleph. That's the Medrash. But I told you that, I think I told you this. That doesn't mean the letter Aleph and letter Bey spoke. It's like not Sesame Street with little puppets of Aleph Bey. It doesn't mean that. What if the Aleph could speak, this is the point it would make. If the Beys could speak, and the Aleph is saying, I represent oneness and unity. Why would you create a world of Beys, which is duality and division? Why do that? Why create a world of conflict? There's body and soul. There's peace and war. There's good and evil. There's everything. This whole world is based on opposites and conflict. Why do that? So God said, relax. When I give you the Torah, you'll start with the letter Aleph. I mean, the Torah will show you how to resolve conflicts, how you can make body and soul work together, etc. So it doesn't mean the body and the letter Beis and the letter Aleph actually spoke, but it means if they could speak, this is what they say based on their essence. Okay, so here too, Maral says doesn't mean it's a real conversation. It means this is what an angel would say. Okay, clear that away. Fine. Now, okay, Moshe goes up to heaven. All right. Now, this itself is an interesting thing. We kind of take it for granted. What does that mean? He went up to heaven. Now we know he did not eat for 40 days and 40 nights. There's actually a Gemara that says if you make a Shavuot that is unattainable, we tell you that Shavuot is null and void immediately. And the Gemara gives an example. If somebody swears, I will not eat for the next 7 days, we say that's impossible. A human being can't survive without 7 days. And then we make him annul that Shavuot immediately. So Gemara is saying it's impossible. So how did Moshe stay up there and not eat 40 days and 40 nights? So Ramchal and others say that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he went into heaven, his body somehow transformed to a more of a spiritual essence. He wasn't in his purely physical form. He's more of a spiritual form, and in that spiritual form, he did not need food. Now, the reason why I mentioned that to you is because it makes this conversation even more problematic. The angels are protesting the presence of a human being, even a Moshe who is really transformed into more of a spiritual state. It's not even, right? So that's a fascinating thing, that here the angels don't want Moshe to get the Torah, even in the spiritual state that Moshe finds himself in the heaven. Okay, let's see. Moshe. When Moshe ascends the heavenly heights, so the angels say, what is this person born of a woman doing here? That's also a very strange expression. What is this born of a woman? Say, why is this human here? Why is this person of flesh and blood here? Why is this person born of a woman? And that's precisely what they're trying to say. Even in this spiritual state that he's in, but let's track his source. Where does he come from? He's born of a woman. Let's not forget, he comes from flesh and blood. That's his roots. You want to give a Torah to someone that's such an earthly existence? earthly roots. That's his origin. That's why they say, my Yilud Isha. Why the reference is to Yilud Isha as opposed to say he's human. It's more than that. Look at his roots. I'm not going to get deceived by the fact that now he's spiritual kind of composition, but his roots are physical, in which case he has physical qualities. So why would you want to give him Torah? What's he doing here, rather? What's he doing here? And what does God say? What's the answer? What does God answer? What does God tell him? What does he, look inside.
Come and defend yourself.
No, right away. What's the first thing he says to the angels? What are you making these things up for? What does it say? What does God say to him? Hello, guys. I know we have short memories, but we just saw this 30 seconds
really
ago.
Short.
What is someone born of woman doing amongst us? And what did God say to them?
He told Moshe to.
No, he's skipping way ahead. Look for his paragraph on page 88, the first page.
He's come to receive a Torah.
He's come to receive a Torah. Duh. They knew that. That's their point. Their point was, why are you giving him a Torah? What's God's response? He's coming to receive a Torah. Hello, that's our problem. Why are you giving a Torah? That's the question. They weren't saying, hey, who invited him into the house? That wasn't the question. The question was, why would you let him come here and get a Torah? So God's response is, he's coming to get a Torah, doesn't answer the question. The Kabbalah Torah was, that's our problem. Our problem is, why are you letting him take a Torah? Right? You hear my problem, guys? Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to work out the questions first, and then we'll try to work this through. Okay. Then they said to him, this treasure that was 975 years before the world was given, you're going to give to him?
Generations.
Generations, sorry. Okay? So what does that mean? So let's take that one off the plate, because it kind of sits in your head like this.
So how many years is it generations?
20 years.
20.
Yeah. So let's see. So what it means is like this. The Torah being special, in order to show its specialness, would have had to precede the world by a certain amount of time to show that it's more special than the world itself, right? So, now even though, by the way, time did not exist, clearly time did not exist. Before God created the world, there was no time. Right. So when we talk about the fact that the Torah existed, it means in a symbolic sense. You can't really talk time, right? Mm-hmm. You can't really discuss time before the earth was created. So we say the Torah was created before the earth and existed for 1,000 or 974 generations. That obviously means in a very metaphorical sense, because there was no time per se. But okay, where's the number 974 come from? So we're establishing now that the Torah is extremely the most valuable thing. It would have to precede the world by a valuable amount of time beforehand. What's considered a valuable amount of time? 1,000 generations. Elef dar. King David refers to Elef dar. 1,000 generations. Or we see also that we see life as the first 2,000 years. We see the world is separated into 3 years of 2,000. 2,000 years of Tov Vavo, the first 2,000 years of Abraham before Abraham comes on the scene. 2,000 years till they got the Torah. 2,000 years till finally coming Mashiach. Right. So you see that 2,000 years are considered to be an allotment of time, a packet of time. Right. So it would make sense that the Torah is going to precede the world by 1,000 generations or 2,000 years, which is the same thing. Right. Okay. So we would expect the Torah to have been created or hidden for 1,000 generations before the world was created.
It would be
20,000.
What?
20,000 years.
20,000
You
years.
said 20 per generation.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's derivative. Sorry, it's derivative. You're right. It's 2,000 or 20. What did I say? Yeah.
That's right. 6,000
Right.
after
Right.
creation, 20,000
Right.
before
So
creation.
okay. So what? Right. So what
Well,
it
the
means is
antediluvian personalities in Bereshit usually had a kid at age 100,
Right,
150.
okay.
So you'd have to increase.
But it's 1,000 generations. I'm sorry, 1,000, right? 1,000 generations?
It's 20,000.
Yeah, okay, but
Yeah, so-
right. But
yeah.
1,000. I just meant
Less
derivative.
26.
Yeah,
Is
right.
26 important?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
okay. So where's 26 come from? Now we're getting there. So it's 1,000 generations, right? Okay. The Torah should have existed for 1,000 years before the world was created. Okay. Now the truth is that the Torah, the world existed without the Torah for how many generations? 26. From the time the world was created till Moshe got the Torah was 26 generations. All right. In fact, if you in the Hodu we say on Shabbos, Hod Hashem Kili Olam Chazdo, Kili Olam Chazdo, Kili Olam Chazdo. How many those are? Take a wild guess. 26. Yeah. Because we say there are it was 26 generations of pure chesed that God allowed the world to survive without a Torah. So that's Kili Olam Chasta refers to those 26. Refers to those 26 generations that the world existed without the benefit of Torah, and that's pure chesed of God, because the world should not exist without Torah. Okay, so if the world already existed for 26 generations, so then how many generations did it exist before the world was created? 974. See, that's what 974. So the world existed, or the Torah existed 974 generations before the world came into being, because you add 26, then you get your 1,000 generations. You got me? Okay. That explains the number. And that's kind of a side point for now, but the bottom line is, it means the Torah that's so valuable, that existed before the world, you're going to give that to human being? Meaning, because human beings, they're going to mess up. Why would you give it to human beings? They're going to mess up. All right? Atam vachli l'vas v'adam. You're going to give it to a person of flesh and blood? And then it quotes the verse. What is the mortal man that you should remember him? Or the son of man that you should recall him? Now, by the way, it's interesting, there's a double phrase here. What is mortal that you should remember him? Or the son of man that you should recall him? Why the double phrase? So again, the commentator explained it means talk about his body, talk about his soul. Mortal man is the body. Son of man is even the soul. They don't say body or soul. They don't deserve a Torah. It's still a lower level, right? And they don't deserve a Torah. That's their complaint. All right. Now, a couple of questions. First of all, they're getting pretty territorial over here, right? They say, to know, leave the Torah in heaven. Don't bring it down there. I have a very simple solution. Angels, you take it, and they'll take it. Why is it one or the other? Why can't it be the angels have Torah and the Jews have the Torah? What are they getting so bent out of shape for?
Yeah, the angels can't have a Torah.
Well, they obviously want it, right?
But they really don't.
Oh, but hold on a second. Leave that argument alone for a second.
Okay.
But I'm saying, coming from their perspective, what's their problem? No, you're saying they can't have a Torah, which I want to get to in a second, why they could.
Yeah.
But what's their problem? I mean, what's their objection? You say, leave the Torah with all its splendor here. Well, guess what? The Torah can remain in heaven and go to earth. What's the problem? Right?
Jealousy.
Nah, not by angels. All right? Well, it's hard to say that, right? So
It's a different kind.
different kind. Can I tell you something I just heard? I was in Israel, and somebody made this point. I'm trying to remember where I heard this point. Gosh, I don't remember anymore. Okay, it's totally a random point. Not related to you mentioned jealousy, but I thought it was such a sweet thing. It's not related to anything, so I apologize. But Rav Steinemann, so his Rebbitzin made a comment that somebody over and told me his comment. She said, she grew up appreciating the finer things in life, the pretty things in life. She always had something. She enjoyed very pretty things, but she taught herself to enjoy those pretty things even if somebody else has it. I thought it was such a beautiful way of saying, like, you can enjoy pretty things, but so if somebody else has it, still enjoy the pretty thing. Right. Why is if it's not yours, you can't enjoy it? It was such a beautiful outlook. You should enjoy pretty things, but why so bad if you enjoy it if somebody else has it? I thought it was just okay, in terms of jealousy, not jealousy. Okay, let's go back. So why the angels get all bent out of shape? Now we have to deal with your question also. What possibly could they do with the Torah? That's a great question. Well, hold on for a second. All right, we'll get there in a second. Why are they getting bent out of shape? This is a really critical piece. We say the famous Dayenu, which every rabbi asks this question 1,000 times. We get to one of the stanzas, had you brought us to Har Sinai and not given us a Torah, that would have been enough. Every rabbi says, what's the point, right? What's the point of schlepping us to Sinai if you're not giving us a Torah? That makes no sense, right? So, many, many answers. Actually, one answer, I don't want to get sued for false advertising. So one thing about the parsha, one answer as related to this parsha. Wow, because what happened to Har Sinai? So the Svarim teach us, the holy books tell us that Paska Zu Masanachash, that the poison of the snake was expelled. Meaning, when we ate from the tree of knowledge and the Nachash, the serpent kind of seduces into that, we ingested evil inside of us. Now, evil is part of our composite. That didn't happen when Adam was created. When at Sinai, we achieved the level of Adam Harishon Kodam Ached. That's the expression. Adam before sin. We achieved that level. Fair enough? Okay. So that's why had you brought us to Sinai and not give us Torah, that itself would have been something clearly a huge step. That we revert back to our old selves is pretty impressive, right? Okay. Let's go through this parsha for a second, and this kind of an aside, and forgive me. In Parshas Bahar, we have the famous question of Rashi, and it opens the parsha. Vaydaber Moshe right by Har Sinai Lemar, and then tells the mitzvah Shemitah. To which Rashi asks the famous question, Ma Inyan Shemitah Eitzel Har Sinai. What is the connection between Shemitah and Har Sinai? Right? And Rashi says, no, the connection is that just like Shemitah was given at Sinai, all the laws were given with detail in Sinai. Okay, but that's the famous question. Ma Inyan Shemitah Sinai. What's the connection between Shemitah and Har Sinai? There's no connection. What my father would say, there's a Yiddish expression, Arbus and Vant. You know what Arbus and Vant means? No. Anybody knows what Arbus means? What's Arbus? Nobody knows Arbus? Arbus is chickpeas. That's chickpeas, yeah? What's Vant in Yiddish? It's a wall. Vant is a wall. So Arbus and Vant means chickpeas on the wall. There's no connection. So now, I never understood, like, where did that idiom come from? Where did it come from? So I saw once a Baal Musa explained it. It was genius. He actually explained the idiom. That's not... Arbus, a chickpea, is round. A wall is flat. The most minimal contact is when you put a circle against a flat line, the minimal contact is that point. So if you want to say there's no connection, it's Arbus and Vant. That means there's the most minimal connection possible. That's the expression it comes from. Anyway, so what's the connection between Shemitah and Har Sinai? That's the famous question. So now, according to the says of B'nai Yissaschar, I'm going to share with you now what my great-great-grandfather said, beautiful idea. He said, here's the connection. If at Har Sinai, we got the level of Adam before Chet. Agreed? Now let's go back to Adam before Chet. Well, let's go back here. What happened when it was Chote? What does Hashem say? One of the consequences, Bezeas apecha tocha lechem. By the sweat of your brow, you're now going to have to make wheat. You can't, that's it. You have to work. You have to schwitz, to cook. It was normally, before the sin of Adam, everything would have grown kind of spontaneously by itself, and now you have to work the soil to make it happen, right? Correct? That's after sin. Before sin, what happened by itself, right? Mm-hmm. What does Shemitah represent? Shemitah is that time period where you don't work the soil, and it produces by itself. That's the connection between Shemitah and Har Sinai. Har Sinai is the status of Adam before sin, and Shemitah is an expression of that status, because Adam before sin didn't have to work the field. That's the connection of Shemitah and Har Sinai. Interesting idea as well.
Excuse me, could it be also talking about Yovel? 49 days from Yetziat Mitzrayim to Har Sinai, then you have 7 cycles of Shemitah.
Okay, but it's much Shemitah before Yovel. Okay, interesting. Okay, I hear. But it's too much Shemitah, not Yovel. Okay, fine, let's go back to the thing. Okay. But,
it's interesting.
Huh?
It's interesting.
Is, yeah.
749.
Yeah, yes, but it's about Shemitah, the 7, not necessarily 49. But it's interesting. Okay. But let's go back to this. So at Har Sinai, okay, so let's go back to the question. Had you brought us to Sinai and not given us Torah, that would have been enough. So the question is, why? So we explained it one way, because at Sinai we got to that status of Adam before sin. I want to show you a different idea. The Netziv, I think it's the Netziv. The Netziv has an interesting insight. He says there's 2 kinds of Torah. There's Torah called Sinai, and there's Torah called past Sinai. What does it mean? Ilu karvenu l'fnei Sinai. Had you brought us to Sinai, that would have been one kind of Torah. Where God says, here's the Torah, follow it. V'lo nasan lanu esar Torah, and you didn't give it to us. Had you brought us to Sinai and given us Torah, that would have been great. But you did more than that. You gave it to us, which means you told us, you empowered us, and said, you decide, you make out the laws, you use your kal v'chomeres and your gzei shavas, and use your logic to apply, right? We're building Torah Shabbat, right? So you gave it to us, we're in charge. We decide when the new moon is. We decide when Yom Kippur is. That's the 2 levels. This Lifnei Har Sinai is Torah, but that would have been Torah, just follow the rules. But lo nasan lanu us Torah, but had you not given it to us, but you did 2 things. You gave us Sinai, which means you gave us Torah, which is instructions, but you did more. If you would give us Sinai, that would have been great. You would give us Torah instruction manual. But you gave it to us. You said, you're in charge. You decide what everything's going to be. That's the level number 2. Had you brought us Sinai, and you give V'lo nasan, the Hedgish is on V'lo nasan lanu us. Had you not given it to us, that would have enough. But you gave it to us. That's when Malachim are going, yikes. You see, they're in charge. It's not like, okay, you do yours and we do mine. No. What they decide downstairs affects upstairs. It does affect them. Because what we do down below shakes the heavens above. It does affect them. You gave it to us. We're in charge. We decide Yom Kippur for the entire world, meaning them too. Everything's, so, but they're protesting because they know that now we're in charge. It's not like you do yours and I do mine. It's an incredible thought. Right? That's what they're protesting. Yikes. You're not only giving to them, they're fallible. They're going to make mistakes. And then we're going to have to follow their lead.
They will make mistakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
yet we have to follow lead. Why are you doing that? That was their point. Okay. So now we get a little bit where they're coming from. Okay, but let's take a step back now. So they're protesting, and they're saying that there's no reason to give them the Torah. We'd rather keep it up here, and in fact, you give it to them, they can mess up, and then we're stuck with it. Right? We're stuck with it. Okay. As an aside again, because we're trying to figure this whole thing out, there's another way of looking at this. The Malachims, when they said leave it in heaven, is they were claiming something called bar mitzvah. Bar mitzvah means that if somebody owns a piece of property and he plans on selling it, the neighbor gets first dibs. Neighbor gets first dibs. So the Malachim is saying, hey, 1 second, you're giving up the Torah. We should get first dibs because we're closer to the Torah. We should get first dibs. That's their complaint. Din the bar mitzvah. Midrash will talk about that. So how do you answer that question, bar mitzvah? This is kind of an aside. There's a few things. First of all, bar mitzvah does not apply to children, which means that even though if I sell it to somebody, or I want to sell it to my children come first. So therefore, Malachim, sorry, you're not Hashem's children. Bnei Yisrael are Hashem's children, so you can't claim bar mitzvah. Number one. Number two, bar mitzvah only applies for a sale, not for a gift. This is a gift. I'm gifting them the Torah. If I sell it to somebody, you get first dibs to buy it first. I'm giving it as a gift. And number three, bar mitzvah does not apply. It only applies if you're selling a field to work the field. But if you're selling it to someone to build a home comes first. So here, the Torah is given for us to build a home for Hashem, right? To build a Shekhinah in this world. So therefore, on all three, they struck out for any reason they want to claim bar mitzvah. A, they're not children, they're not God's children. B, this is a gift, not a sale. And C, if he's selling it to be a house to live in, God's giving us the Torah so we can create a home for him in this world. Interesting. I think I saw this one of the Lubavitch Rebbe's has this kind of insight. Okay, fine. So let's go back.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Could there be another one? That
Yeah.
perhaps the angels were wrong, they're not actually closer to Hashem than we are.
We'll get there. Thank you for reminding me. I'll go back to that now. They said, "My yilud isha." Let's look at these words here. Topic here. My yilud isha. What is someone born of a woman amongst us? Ever see that? You see that phrase again? Ever see that phrase?
Yes, actually occurs in Shakespeare.
Well,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that Macduff was, no man can harm Macbeth who was born of a woman. But it turned out Macduff was ripped untimely from his mother's womb.
There you go.
So he was able to.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So look at the words. Ma lilud isha beinenu. Ever see those words? Yes? And the English translates, not incorrectly, what is someone born of a woman doing amongst us? Beinenu means amongst us, right? But beinenu also means between us, right? Agreed? Yes? So now, with the angel saying, hey, I don't get this hierarchy. There's inanimate object, there's plant life, there's animal, like domem, semech, chayach, right? Medaber, there's angel. No, there's angel, there's human, and God. Why is he between us and you? What they're pointing out is, hey, it doesn't seem to be right. It looks like he is between us and you, meaning he's on a higher level than us. My Lurisha Beinenu, but the word Beinenu has that double entendre, doesn't just mean amongst us, it means he's between us and God, which means he's actually on a higher level than us. They're scratching their heads. How could that possibly be? They don't get it. We'll see what they don't get in a second. What does it mean angels don't get it?
Right.
What does it mean they don't get it? But they don't get it, all right? We'll see what it says. But they don't get it. How is that possible that this Yilud Isha is Beinenu literally? There's us, there's him, and God. So he's between us. How can he be on a higher level? Okay, so let's go back to the next page. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe, give him an answer. Is God passing the buck over here? He says, you answer. Right? Well, what's going on? You know, there's a famous story about the Vilna Gaon. I think it was Vilna Gaon. Vilna Gaon had a driver, and they used to go from town to town. The Vilna Gaon used to speak. And the driver once said, you know what? I know your speech is by heart already. I can do the same thing you can do. So Vilna Gaon said, yeah, okay, next time, you pretend to be the Vilna Gaon. So the Vilna Gaon dressed up as a wagon driver, and the wagon driver dressed as Vilna Gaon. They went to the next town, and he started fielding questions. And he was doing pretty good. Until somebody asked him a question that really stumped him. So he goes, That's such an easy question. Even my driver can answer that question. Take it away. That's what he did, right? Famous story. Okay? Okay. So it seems like God's passing the buck and saying, Moshe, you better answer that question. Why couldn't Hashem answer himself? Why is he telling Moshe to answer the question? I mean, the angel is speaking to God. Mm-hmm. So why is God saying, Moshe, you answer? What do you think it is?
Probably showed the angels that Moshe could handle it.
Okay, Moshe could handle it, good. And more than that, probably, if he couldn't answer it, then he doesn't deserve the Torah. If you don't understand what makes you unique and why you deserve the Torah, then you don't deserve the Torah. You got to work it out, Moshe. You got to understand why you deserve the Torah. If you don't understand why you deserve the Torah, then you really don't deserve the Torah. If you don't get why you're getting it, not the angels, okay. So he says, I am afraid of the fiery breaths in their mouths. To which God said, take a hold of my throne of glory and somehow give me an answer. Now, what is like? That's like base. Hold on to base. What does that really mean? What does it mean? I'm afraid of their fiery breath. What it means is, he doesn't say I'm afraid of what they might tell me. Doesn't say that. I'm not afraid of their arguments. I'm afraid of their fire. The breath precedes words. Breath means the essence. When you talk about the breath, you find a few times. Well, let's say God tells Abraham, listen to the voice of Sarah, what she says. It doesn't say listen to her words. Listen to her voice. It means. It's not just the words, it's where do those words come from. They come from Ruach HaKodesh. Listen to the voice, listen to the source of the words. So the breath is the source of the words. And what he's saying is, Moshe, the source of the angel is so demanding. They have such a high level, they're so exacting, they're so perfect. I can't handle that. I'm not going to be able to respond properly. I am a human being. I am going to make mistakes. I can't compete with their essence. I can debate them with their words, but I compete with their essence. He saw them as much more pure than him. To which God said, hold on to the crown of glory and give him an answer. So what's this crown of glory stuff? So he's saying you're making a mistake. The crown of glory, the Chazal tell us, the where our neshamas come from, says God digs under the crown of glory and he sends us neshamas from the crown of glory. Which means, now what is a crown of glory? The crown of glory, or it says a crown? It's kisei kavod. What is it? I keep saying crown. Throne of glory. Yeah. Throne of glory, not a crown. The throne of glory, the kisei kavod, represents Hashem's majesty in this world. It's the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's majesty in the best way we can, in the only way we can understand it. If we're saying that that our neshamas come from there, that means Hashem's telling Moshe, they come from a higher level than yours. Your neshamas come from the throne of glory themselves, which is, for me, even more than the angel. So you are on a higher level. We'll get there in 1 second. Now, he says to him, and our job is, what is our job? Is to restore that throne of glory. In other words, those souls that now God sent down to this world, our job is to rebuild that throne of glory in all its glory. That's our role. All right? And that's what he's telling Moshe. No, your soul comes from a deeper place. Okay? Now, it's also clever. I don't mean that in a clever sense, I mean in a deep sense. He says, give them an answer. Right? But, and what's the word for answer? Tshuva. But tshuva also means to repent. Mm-hmm. And at a deeper level, Hashem is telling Moshe, you tell them you can do tshuva. Angels can't. They don't have the whole concept of making a mistake and becoming bigger because of mistake. They can't. Because they can't make a mistake, they can't experience tshuva, right, which puts you at a higher level.
Right.
So Haslam tshuva has a double entendre as well. It means give them response, but he also giving a hint. Tell them you have the power of tshuva. I was told this shadow. I had that idea in mind. I told this to one of our shivas from Lakewood. He loved it. It was a really beautiful idea. But Haslam tshuva is this idea that you tell them, and a malach can't do that. Now, by the way, Judaism teaches that when you sin and you do tshuva, you're actually on a higher level than before the sin itself. In fact, the famous Rambam that says, if a person says echta v'oshuv, I'll sin and I'll do tshuva, that doesn't help. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. No, it's because you're using tshuva as an excuse to sin. It's kind of, I don't mean to demean, but right, let's say confessionals. When you go to confession on Sunday morning, but it means you can sin all week because you have confession coming up on Sunday. You almost use that as an excuse to sin because you have a built-in repentance. I'm not joking, that's what happens. It's a built-in confessional. You know you can sin, do the confession. Right? So Chazal is saying you can't do that. Echta v'oshuv, I'll sin and I'll tshuva. You can't do that. Why? Because you're using tshuva as a crutch to sin. That can't work. But now there's a deeper shot. You might think that echte v'oshev is the highest level. I'll sin and then through tshuva I'll become even a higher level. You're not allowed to premeditate that. If you happen to sin, then you have the option of tshuva. You're not allowed to sin premeditated so you can do tshuva. But you might have thought that. In fact, you know who thought that? Adam. That was Adam's kavanah. I'm going to eat from Netzah Das. I'm going to sin, bring myself down, Nefesh Chaim says, and then I'll be higher to do tshuva. That was his cheshbon, which is a wrong cheshbon. But that's the havamina, the real havamina echtosh. It doesn't just mean on a simple level, okay, I'll sin, I'll do tshuva. No, of course you can't do that. No, on a higher level, it really means that. You might have thought that the opportunity to do tshuva after sin is so valuable that you could actually sin. No, you can't. It can't be premeditated. Okay? But anyway, that's what's going on. Now, the angels don't get it. Why don't they get it? What's going on over here? Okay, it's like this. If somebody'd say to you, I want you to know, I was really tempted, I went someplace, nobody saw me, somebody offered me some this really great food. I was really tempted to eat it, but you know what? I thought, I can't. I really can't. I got to be true to myself. I said, wow, that's impressive. Right. Okay, you control yourself. Impressive. Or some other temptation, I could have done it. But if someone says, I want you to know something. I got into a fight with my father. I was so mad. I was tempted to smash him over the head with a 2x4. But you know what? I overcame my temptation. Are you going to say, wow, that's impressive? We say, you sick puppy, right? You even had such a havamina, right? So for a malach, we say, if we have temptation and we overcome the temptation, that's great. A malach sees it, you had a havamina to sin against Hashem. The same way we can't fathom a guy having the havamina, right? The possibility of hitting their father with a 2x4, they can't understand. You go against the word of God. It doesn't make sense. They can't relate to that.
Because they don't really have the choice. I mean,
right.
In some
So
places,
they don't have a choice, and they can't relate to the fact that a person could even have let me think. Should I go against the God's words? It doesn't. It's like you said. It's not in their DNA. They're not programmed to possibly do that. All right. So that's why they have a problem with this whole question. They don't see greatness. They see weakness. Someone says, "I almost want to kill my father, but I didn't." I don't see this stress. It's total. It's horrible. And that's what the malachim see in people.
But they're
It's horrible.
programmed to insult you.
What?
They seem to be programmed to insult you.
Not insult. They can't.
you're not supposed to tell Lashon Hara about the Jews, and that's what the angels are doing.
Well, they're defending the Torah's honor. That's what they see.
Well,
they're not doing it. They're not doing it to be vicious. They're defending. They really truly believe that you're giving the Torah to fallible people who are going to make mistakes, and they simply can't relate. They can't relate. Okay, so
this is a metaphor,
well,
Okay.
right,
the whole thing.
right, but right,
They see
it's-
it through their own lens.
Right, exactly.
Each one has a
Exactly.
different mission.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
This is the way
so,
they see it.
So this is what's going on over here. And this really is the battle for Torah. And Moshe had to understand that what the Torah is all about. The Torah is all about the fact that we are human, but that's what makes us great. That's what he had to understand. That was the battle behind the scenes to get a Torah. We have to understand, what is the Torah for? The Torah is for us who can make mistakes to learn from them and grow and become greater because of them. That's what he had to fight for, and that's what this was going on over here. And then he quotes this strange verse of, he spreads his clouds upon the face of the throne. What that really means is, and it's really Kabbalistic, so I'm not going to spend so much time on it, but it means like this. A cloud is, on one hand, it has some sort of density to it. It has some cover, but yet you can see light shining through it, right? So it's quasi. So here it means like the neshama has the ability, even though the body seems to be a blocker of the light called the neshama, but what the verse is suggesting is that somehow the neshama has the ability to penetrate through the cloud as well, through the body as well. That's what we're trying to suggest over here, that even though we're made of a physical body, the neshama could elevate the body, penetrate the body, etc. Okay. And then he goes on to say, do you have parents? You can't honor your parents. Do you have this, right? And back and forth. And so the question really is, like you asked, but what were the angels thinking? What were the angels really thinking? How could they possibly keep a Torah? So this goes back to a broader idea, and we'll kind of cover this quickly. We've mentioned this many times. We all know that God actually offered the Torah to non-Jews as well, to non-Jewish nation. And they all rejected it for whatever reason they rejected it. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. All right? So it begs the obvious question, what makes us the chosen people if God went to everybody else first? They all said no. He's scraping the bottom of the barrel. We're the only ones left. That doesn't make us chosen. That means we basically with leftovers. That's what it is.
Makes
right?
us the last chosen people.
Huh?
The last
chosen people, right? Doesn't sound old, right? So it's me the chosen people.
But I thought he said when he created the Torah at the beginning, it was for the Jews, and for that, the whole world.
Oh, good. So what does it mean that God went to every
Right, I'm
nation?
saying
So
that's-
how do you drive the two? Right. Okay, same question. How do you drive the two? And the answer is the Torah that God was offering the non-Jew was not the same Torah. I mean, it was and it wasn't. Meaning the very Torah has many levels. Like, do not steal can simply mean do not steal. But for a Jew, it means don't even rob somebody from their sleep. Do not murder means don't stick a knife in somebody's back. For a Jew, it also means don't humiliate somebody publicly. Right? So there is a deeper level of Torah. What God was offering the non-Jew was the simplest level of instruction. And not only that, he wasn't going to give the non-Jew the ability to decide the Torah. He would have been like Sinai Torah. It would have been just instructions. But he gave us the Torah. So he gave us a deeper version of the same Torah. Well, guess what? That deeper version also exists on even a more spiritual level, which the angels wanted. So the angels didn't expect to honor parents literally, but guess what? Honoring parents has a deeper metaphysical concept in Kabbalah. Abba ve'ima, father and mother, represent kindness and strictness, whatever the case is. So they were going to fulfill the Torah on that more sublime level. So they had no illusions that they had parents, or they had temptation to steal, or jealousy, etc., etc. But they, just like the non-Jew was going to be given on a more basic level, and we got it on a higher level, they wanted the Torah on the purely spiritual level. That's what they wanted to get. All right? So that's what they were clamoring for. And they certainly did not want the Jew to get it because they felt, A, he'll mess up, and B, he's now in charge. Right? Okay.
So all the physical mitzvot in the Torah would have been applicable to them on a spiritual level?
On a spiritual level.
Like lulav or whatever?
Right, on a totally spiritual level. In fact, kind of like Adam, kind of like the Avos, the patriarchs kept the Torah before.
Right.
So the Torah they kept was not the Torah. Their tefillin did not look like God's tefillin. When it says that the patriarchs kept the Torah, it means that spiritual level of it. They did some sort of physical action to contain it, to give it some physical reality, but doesn't mean they had tefillin like we had tefillin, or so they kept the most sublime level. That's exactly what it means, right? Very similar to that. Correct. So what they're clamoring for is that level, and even though you think it can go for both of us, no, they're saying no. If you give it to them, and they're in charge, then we're doomed because it's all